Hello, and welcome to the EVEEchoChamber. If you like what you see, please hit that sub button. If you really like what you see, you could support me on Patreon. Today, another advanced encounter in our Close Encounter series. Sebiestor or Angel Cartel. Let's get started.
Warp drive active.
Remember that if you think the encounter will be too difficult, or if you are experimenting with a new ship or a new fit, you can click Cancel on this box, go to your Cosmic Anomalies tab of your overview, and warp to the anomaly at range. As we land on grid, we want to take a look around for it. Whoa. Yep, I bet this encounter has killed a lot of players. So all of those rocks around us, we want to avoid them. So I'm going to just double click in a random direction until I've cleared these obstacles, so I don't get caught on them and prevented from warping or moving. Just running off in one direction like this is actually safer than the way that I usually do the encounters. I show you that I like to orbit one of the bigger, slower targets as I kill everything else. It is safer to just fly off in one direction, but I don't like having to go back and forth because of the range. Once you go in one direction long enough, if the ships aren't following you closely enough, you'll have to turn around and get back in range and then go off in one direction again. And a danger of orbiting the way that I've been showing you in these videos is that you are only orbiting the one target that you are orbiting at that range. You might say, okay, 20 kilometers away from that target, and I'm safe from anything he can do to me. I only have to worry about the damage. But when you're orbiting that guy at 20 kilometers, you can drift into range of other ships. A lot of the smaller ships like destroyers are the ones that use webifiers, so you might drift into web range and be taking a lot more damage from the other ships. There's been a lot of complaints on Reddit that I find kind of funny of people getting caught on these objects and trying to claim it's a bug. So for anybody who's unfamiliar with modeling or game development, the collision box will not perfectly match the object that you see. That would be way more difficult and way more resource intensive. so it's possible there will be some invisible walls a little bit outside of the object. And there's other objects that you see you should be colliding with, but the invisible walls are actually smaller than the object you see. So it's give and take. You should just be paying enough attention to not be caught on the object's invisible walls or otherwise. In the event that you see yourself getting stuck, you should click that icon that looks like a spaceship next to your health and capacitor. That is your speed button. You can either manually set your speed to some percentage, but if you just tap it, you will stop the ship. And after you stop the ship, you should rotate your camera so you are looking directly away from whatever you're stuck on, and then double click in space behind you. So instead of trying to go around or through the object, you will just turn around completely and go in the opposite direction. Then when you're far enough away from the object, you can try to warp again. I mentioned how sometimes you can go through objects because the invisible walls are smaller than the object you see. And a lot of people might say, well, they should just go one way or the other. Either you can go through everything, or you can't go through anything. But some things, like when you're leaving a station, if you couldn't warp through the station, if you couldn't warp through planets, that would be pretty difficult, don't you think? And I like having collidable objects in the encounters like this because it makes it more difficult to bot or automate the content. Unfortunately, having to kind of zigzag in straight lines like that makes it more difficult to loot while we're fighting. If you've seen my videos before, you know that I like to battle loot. I like to loot while I'm doing the encounter. But you see that I still have a lot of wrecks I need to do. Encounter complete. Don't forget to loot. And while you're here, why don't you practice manually piloting around the rock structures? See where you're hitting an invisible wall. See where you're just going through the rock. Try to get a feel for it. Thank you for watching. This has been the EVEEchoChamber. Fly safe.